Hi everyone, today I thought I'd take a look at what I consider to be the best scrolling shooter. This is Einhänder on the original PlayStation. This was published by Squaresoft in 1997. Have a couple different ship types here with different gun emplacement configurations. I'm just going to go ahead and use the default. So Einhänder is a scrolling shooter. It's mostly horizontal scrolling, although there are some vertical sections. Got your usual screen full of enemies. The interesting thing about this one is that you can control the speed of your ship on the fly. You can also pick up extra weapons like that. But you use the right and left shoulder buttons to sort of open and close the foil on the back of your ship. With the left one, I made myself really slow and cumbersome. With the right one, I made myself really fast and nimble, which is handy, but makes the control feel looser. I feel more likely to crash into other ships this way. But I'll go ahead and keep it there. Here's the cannon. I like the cannon. It slightly changes perspective once in a while. Here you see I'm kind of scrolling horizontally in kind of a diagonal 3/4 perspective. Graphically, what I think we're dealing with here is pre-rendered backgrounds with 3D polygon ships and explosions and shots and everything. This was a pretty standard choice back in the day. Ooh, watch this. Gives you a really devastating lightning bolt there. I'm playing this on an emulator, so I am noticing little performance hiccups here and there, which is kind of surprising. The old computer that I used to play this on was a lot slower and it ran better. I think it might be the added stress of recording at the same time. But anyway, as I was saying about the graphics, with the PlayStation 1, everything sort of went from sprite-based to 3D polygon-based. So this was a pretty typical example. But there were a lot of games, especially on the Sega Saturn, that continued using sprite graphics. And overall, I think those aged better, honestly. This does look kind of primitive by today's standards. For example, if you take a look at the graphics in Street Fighter Alpha 2 versus, say, Mortal Kombat 4, I think Street Fighter definitely does have the crisper, cleaner look with the sprites. So clearly I have the audio off here, and it kind of killed me to do that because this game has a really awesome soundtrack. But, you know, being such a huge release, I don't want to get sued by Squaresoft. Yeah, what can I say about the music in this game? I'm not normally a fan of industrial techno, which I think this is an example of. But the soundtrack from this game is just so intense and so, I don't know, thumping and pulse pounding. And there are some levels where it incorporates opera and even rap music into the techno, and it really works. This is definitely one of those soundtracks I can listen to in the car on the way to work or whatever. It's really great. If you ever have a chance to check it out, I would recommend doing so. I feel like I play worse without the soundtrack on, but whatever. We'll suffer together. This is the first boss here, kind of a big walking dinosaur thing. Like all shooter bosses, it's just a matter of reading its body language and anticipating its attack patterns. So the first time I ever played this was on a demo disc. They used to give away demos with the PlayStation magazine, and they even gave away PlayStation demos at Pizza Hut for a while, if I'm not mistaken. And this demo included the first level only. I think it came on the same disc as demos of Fighting Force and Parappa the Rapper, if I remember correctly. But this is the one I kept coming back to. The control was just so tight and the action was just so frenetic. The music was so interesting. I just couldn't get enough of this one. Kept playing the first level over and over, trying not to die. If you're looking for this game on eBay, you could expect to pay a pretty good penny for it. Oh, I forgot to mention you can switch the placement of the weapons here. So overall, this game does offer a lot of customization as to your preferred play style. But anyway, this was a pretty popular game that became sort of a cult hit later on. And I think it would be pretty expensive on eBay if it had the instructions in the box and everything. I was lucky enough to score a copy of this when a local video store went out of business back in the day. I think I paid like $10 for it. It's well worth it. I think this game sold a fair number of copies, but for whatever reason they just never did a sequel. Maybe they didn't feel one was necessary. There have been petitions for one. And there have been indie games that were inspired by this and have been described as sort of a spiritual successor. Off the top of my head, I couldn't tell you what those games were called, but they are out there apparently. Like in most scrolling shoot-'em-up games, you can only get hit once before you die. Although there have been times when I feel like I've gotten hit and kind of gotten away with it for whatever reason. And if you're really nimble, you can sort of time it so that your gun pod on the bottom gets hit instead of you. You can sort of sacrifice it. Like for example there, I feel like I sort of took a hit and walked away. So in this part, I can either hit the satellite thing in the middle there, or I can just dodge the fire for a while and pass by. This is a tricky game. This is definitely one of those ones that you can be proud of yourself if you beat it. Offers a lot of challenge, but at the same time it's fair. If you're really fast and have really good Jedi reflexes, you can beat this game. But it definitely doesn't take you by the hand. I never beat it myself. I'm kind of an average player, I guess. Definitely not one of those trick-style players that can do the speed walkthroughs or whatever. There are a lot of those on YouTube, and they're really fun to watch. But that's just not for me. Used to at least be able to get past the second level without dying. Though I feel like I've gotten a little rusty in my old age. Oh, yeah, for example. Case in point. So this is only the second level. They do get harder from here. I think the next level has you going through these really narrow tunnels while avoiding obstacles and enemy fire. And these little spider things that walk on the ceiling and shoot at you. And as you progress, you do have access to some more interesting weapons. I mean, we've seen some interesting ones so far, like that riot thing with the lightning bolt, but I think in the next level there's something that looks kind of like a lightsaber strapped to the bottom of your ship. It's like this sort of energy beam that comes out and just kills everything on contact. It's pretty cool. There are definitely some cool weapon upgrades. Ooh. This does turn into kind of a bullet hell style game with all the little pellets that the enemies randomly give off. Lost my gun pod there. You have a limited amount of ammunition for each one. Ooh. You can replenish it by collecting another one of the same type, though. The Vulcan gun just kind of sprays everywhere and is very hard to control. I think I like the cannon the best overall, aside from that lightsaber thing I was describing. Some of the missiles do track you slightly. I think I'm approaching another sub-boss here. Ah yes, this is kind of a scorpion tank thing. There's an interesting song that plays on the soundtrack here. I think it's titled The Badlands. Oh, here he is firing randomly. Oh. That song, I believe, samples some dialogue from George Lucas's first movie, THX 1138. I think that's where they got that from. The line is, you are engaged in an unauthorized pursuit, remain where you are. Kind of an obscure reference. So you have to read his body language. When he stiffens up like that, he's about to jump. When he kind of waggles from side to side, he's about to shoot over. But then he kind of mixes it up too, so definitely keeps you on your toes. Yeah. I like how there's stuff going on in the foreground and background. Bosses in this game are pretty epic. I love that feeling of sort of blowing parts of them off, because they are pretty enormous. I think I'm approaching the second level boss here. Using an emulator here called EPSXE, and it is giving me a little bit of lag, as I've mentioned previously. Not sure why. So you're aiming for that sort of cockpit-looking thing in the center there. And he's got all these arms that have different weapon emplacements that you can take. Oh, that was close. Okay, when you blow these guys off, he has smaller weapons that you can take. Ah, like so. Gotta watch out for these missiles because they will track you for a good long time. Like so. Yeah, this is intense. If you can't tell, I'm enjoying it. Whoa. Boom. Not gonna lie, that felt pretty awesome. Alright, well, on that note, I will end it. I think you kind of get an idea of what this game looks like. Again, this is Einhänder on the PlayStation 1. I think it's really well made. It's got really high production values overall. Definitely worth checking out, and so is the soundtrack. As always, thank you very much for watching.